Welcome to the Dyno Six Pack Dynasty Football Podcast. My name is Jordan Schultz, and I'll be your host for today. The NFL draft is a couple days away. It's time for us Dynasty owners to start getting acquainted with the upcoming rookie class and get ready for our rookie drafts. Today, we're going to be looking at the position where you kind of really build the cornerstone of your team, and that's the wide receiver position. A couple quick things before we get started, though. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like button so you can see more content just like this. While you're at it, make sure to become an all-access member over at Fantasy Six Pack. When you do that, you get access to all of our award-winning rankings, our draft cheat sheets, DFS projections, betting tools, and all sorts of other great content. Best part about that, you get access to our Discord forum, where you get access directly to writers like us, where we can help you out with your fantasy leagues or your betting questions, things like that. Head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans to sign up today. All right, let's get started. Looking at the wide receiver position here. I don't think there's any true franchise cornerstone pieces when you're talking about the super high end elite guys. I do think there is one potential star though, and there's four other guys that I believe have wide receiver one potential if they hit. Multiple wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 candidates in this class. There's some deeper sleegers that have a little bit of intriguing traits. So while not the most talented class overall, I would say there's still a lot of decent pieces in this class. So let's start with our top tier, and that is with our one potential star in this class, and that is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I don't quite have him in that franchise cornerstone category. Like I said, I don't think he's up there with the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chases, the CeeDee Lambs of the world. I do think he is in a class of his own in this rookie class, though, and I think he has star potential closer to the Jalen Waddle level, which is still really, really good, but it's just not quite that guy that's ever going to be that high first-round startup pick. Biggest knock on JSN's game here, doesn't really have that elite top end speed. If he did, he would be in one of those franchise cornerstones, but he is a master route runner, excellent operating out of the slot, can routinely shake loose, get separation despite the lack of speed, not lack of speed, but the top end speed. He's the type of guy, he's going to be relevant in fantasy leagues right away. But in his prime, I think he has top 10 to 12 yearly potential at the position. Going to be surefire top 5 pick in every rookie draft. Maybe there's a few where he slides to 106, but he's going to be the first wide receiver off the board in pretty much every rookie draft, and I'm going to assume the NFL draft on Thursday today too. Guessing he probably goes somewhere between 10 and 20 in the NFL draft, and like I said, he's going to be mid to early first rounder in all dynasty drafts. Going to step in, make an immediate impact for both teams, real life and fake. If you have a team that's super stacked at the quarterback room, I have a team with Dak, Lamar, and Fields, I don't think it'd be too crazy to draft JSN over the quarterbacks that are there in super flex leagues, but ideally, you trade back a couple spots to 3 or 4, grab JSN and some future assets there. Moving on to our next tier, these are the guys that I still think have high level wide receiver 1 potential here. Good year to need wide receivers. All 4 of these guys are kind of going at the back end of the first round of the drafts, which is nice that you can get a high level wide receiver 1 potential guy that late in the draft. 4 guys here leading the way, and my number 2 wide receiver overall is going to be Jordan Addison. And he's by my number 2 by a fairly wide margin. He does have the speed that takes the top off the defense at the next level. But he's really going to make up a living racking up the catch in the 10, 15-yard intermediate range. Quick twitch cuts make him almost unguardable in the short area because the defenses have to play back and respect that speed. If he can handle press coverage up at the next level, I think he's going to develop into a legit fantasy star for you. Ideally, I think he's going to land in a spot where he can kind of learn a little bit slower to come out of the slot, but I do think in time he could be the wide receiver 1 focal point of an NFL offense. Next guy in this group here, we got Zay Flowers, a guy that's climbed up my rankings in the pre-draft process and real draft process. It seems like at this point there's a good chance he could go at the end of the first round in the NFL draft. Great vision and change of direction speed when he makes it after the catch when he has the ball in his hands. Type of guy that could really grow into a yak monster. You can line him up all over the field, but similar to what we were saying with Jordan Addison, you're going to want him to acclimate to the NFL playing mostly out of the slot. That's where he operates best, and I think most coaches are going to want to put him there to start off. He had 9 drops last year, so that is a concern, but I think he's going to be able to clean that up, and he'll be a solid PPR contributor for you. Next guy in this group is Quentin Johnston. His 6'2" frame, 210 pounds, it definitely makes him stand out physically from the rest of the guys in this group. If we fast forward a year from now and you tell me he's a wide receiver 1 in this class, that's not the craziest thing. I wouldn't be too surprised by that. I would argue he has the most to clean up out of the top 5 receivers here and probably the lowest floor. But he does have that freak size speed combo that none of the other guys have. has a chance to be game changing if you can refine a few of those things. Biggest things, he needs to be able to expand that route tree. A little bit inconsistent. He's got to cut out the drops. Like in the last year at TCU, he had more drops than touchdowns. So got to get rid of that at the next level. But I mean, he is the lottery ticket of this wide receiver class. He has arguably the highest ceiling, but like I said, he does not have the safest floor of the top 5. Rounding out our top 5 here, we have Josh Downs out of North Carolina. Very crafty route runner, knows how to use his choppy kind of stop and go quickness to lull defenders to sleep, and then he's good at finding open spots in the coverage. Junior year to senior year, improved from 8 touchdowns and 10 drops as a sophomore to 11 touchdowns and 3 drops as a junior. Finished with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons for the Tar Heels. An addition for him is he can contribute as a kick and a punt returner. So if you play in a league that rewards for return yards, he's a nice little target at the end of the first round for you. Moving into tier 2, we have 3 guys here that I'm kind of looking at with potential wide receiver 2 potential down the road. Starting off here, we have Jalin Hyatt. For me, he is one of the biggest boom bust prospects in this entire class here. He has blazing speed. If that can translate to the next level, like it did this last year at Tennessee, like he could develop into one of the more elite deep threats in the NFL. Conversely, if he's not able to expand that route tree and consistently win against press coverage, he could be really frustrating now and one of those touchdown dependent boom bust guys that ideally you have him in best ball, but you're not having to try and make the decisions on which weeks you're starting in your lineups. Could be a little bit touchdown dependent. But that all being said, the one season he really got a lot of playing time in Tennessee, he looked the part. Like he put up huge numbers. I could see him needing a little bit of time to adjust to some NFL coverages. Hyatt's teammate Cedric Tillman, he's actually the one that I'm more likely to grab at ADP. I do have him 1 slot behind Hyatt, but you can get him around if not later. He had ankle surgery, kind of derailed his last season at Tennessee. But you go a year back and watch the tape when he was healthy, and you see a guy that knows how to use his big 6'3" frame to bully the smaller defenders on the outside, knows how to go up and make the catch. I don't think he ever really turns into one of those superstars after the catch, but he's a guy that I could see consistently living in like that 4 to 6 catch for 60 to 80 yards a week, touchdown every other week, we'll say. It will most likely be like the primary red zone target for his team. At this time, like he could potentially be the most underrated wide receiver. That could correct if he jumps up in the draft. And like I said, if he was healthy all year, I wouldn't be surprised if we were talking about him up a tier higher at this point. Rounding out this tier, we have Marvin Mims. He is one of those guys that's like a walking big play just waiting to happen at any time. He was able to lead his team in receiving at Oklahoma all 3 years he was there. Capped it off as a 1,000-yard, 6-touchdown campaign where he had over 20 yards per reception. He does have a slender frame, so he's never going to be able to overpower defenders at the next level. But he does know how to use that 4.38 40 speed to get upfield in a hurry. Good at tracking the ball when it's in the air. Type of guy that's going to make those big plays that can flip the field position and the whole momentum in the game in an instant. Another guy that can return kicks, averaged over 11 yards per punt return in college. So return yardage leagues bump them up. All 3 of these guys here in this tier, I'm comfortable using a second-round pick on them. There's a good chance, though, that in probably every other league, there's at least one Jalin Hyatt believer that's going to bump him up into the first round. That's too much for me. I'd rather pop back into the second and grab Mims or Tillman for sure. I do believe these guys have wide receiver 2 potential by the end of probably their second season, so you've got to be patient with them, but they are guys that I do like long-term. Moving into tier 4, these are the guys that we're looking more as like wide receiver 3s. Down the road, of course. Leading off this tier here, we have Kayshon Boutte, probably the most polarizing prospect in like this class of any position at all. Like 6 months ago, he was in the discussion for potentially the best rookie in this class. Now there's a real chance like he's going outside of the second round of rookie drafts. Last 2 years at LSU, they were a mess. They were derailed by injuries, had a lot of off the field issues. Then you go back to his freshman year where he burst on the scene. Really look at it. 308 of those yards, up to 735 total yards, they all came in one game. Had arguably the worst performance of the combine, definitely out of the receiving group, arguably out of any position player. It's just, is he that explosive athlete we saw his freshman year? Is that still in there, or is he closer to the guy that we've seen the last 2 years? If it ends up being the first option where he's that guy he used to be, I mean, it's a first-round talent that we're getting at the end of second round and third rounds of rookie drafts. So I'm going to be very intrigued to kind of see what happens with him, where exactly he goes, what kind of draft capital he gets, and what situation he falls into. Because I could see him jumping a tier, dropping, I mean, even more lower tier 7, tier 8 potentially. Next guy in this group, a guy I feel a little bit more confident about, Xavier Hutchinson. Probably my favorite ADP value at this position right now. Don't think that'll be the case after the NFL draft. I think he gets fairly decent day two draft capital, and that bumps him up boards. Extremely productive for all 3 years at Iowa State. Capped it off with a season of 107 catches, over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. Can go play through contract, no issue hauling a tough passes in traffic. Biggest thing for him is, like a lot of the guys, just needs to prove that he can win against man coverage better at the next level. He has a very well-rounded game, though. Variety of ways that he can win. I think he has a fairly safe floor. He's a guy I'm grabbing in third rounds of tons of drafts, and I feel really, really good about it there. Rounding out this tier here, we have Rashee Rice. Extremely, extremely productive at SMU last year there. Had 96 catches for over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. Some cons on him, like he doesn't have that top end speed, so he could have a little bit of a learning curve at the next level, but he does enough of everything at a good level that I think an NFL team is going to be able to find a role for him within his first 2 years. Biggest thing for him, the kind of one thing that really stood out for me when I was looking at his stats, is he had a season of 9 drops and a season of 10 drops, and those were sandwiched between 2 seasons where he had 1 drop. So it's kind of like, hopefully it's going to be closer to that 1 drop season, but most likely his realistic expectations lie somewhere in the middle there. So there's definitely something to kind of keep an eye on in the preseason, see if he's making those, concentration drops, or if that seems like that's something that with NFL coaching has kind of started to clean up a little bit for him. All of these 3 wide receivers, they're going in like the mid to late second, if not third rounds of dynasty drafts. Like I said, could take 2 full seasons before they really start to show, but I think these guys have like wide receiver 3 or flex play ability in deeper leagues. So yeah, good group right here. Next group down here, we are tier 5. These are guys I'm kind of looking at like flex level potential, but like with a little bit more upside there. Last group of players here, I feel pretty confident will have multiple years of flex level relevance. Outside of this, it gets a little bit muddy. Starting off this group here, we got Tyler Scott. He's a nationally ranked sprinter for track, ability to change direction with the best of them in the class at any position. Biggest thing, just needs to refine that route running and cut down on the drops. He had 7 of them last year. But if he's able to do those things, then an NFL coach is able to use that like track star speed and build him into a legit weapon. He could be a guy that you're happily plugging into your flex spot, getting that consistent scoring, and then having those weeks where it's like huge production where he takes 1 or 2 long passes to the house. Smaller frame, so not going to be that alpha, but could be a huge big play threat. Love like type of profile that you'd like to put in your flex play for those big boom weeks. Next guy in this group, we got Jayden Reed. His production took a step back his final year at Michigan State. He was battling injuries, and then the offense he played in, as it was, isn't super productive for pass catchers. Even that all being said, he was able to get 46 plays of over 20 yards in his career there. He has that field stretching ability where he can get down the field, track the ball, go up, make big catches. Don't know that he's ever going to be a guy that turns into a huge PPR monster, and he could be more big play dependent. But hey, when you're talking about flex guys, you want those guys that can go for 4 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown any week. Next guy in this group here, we got Nathaniel Dell. Easily my favorite 4th round pick right now in rookie drafts. Had back-to-back 1,300-yard seasons, had 12 and 17 touchdowns. Biggest knock on him is he's undersized. He's 5'8", 165 pounds. So it's a frame that is risky. It's like the Tutu Atwell level frame there. So historically, those guys haven't worked out. But like when you really watch him, you can see he knows how to use his quickness and his ball tracking skills to create separation. He can make tough catches that he shouldn't be able to make at that size. The last 2 years at Houston had 90 and 109 catches. So a guy that could potentially become a target hog down the road if he's able to convert and translate his skills to the next level. He is well-rounded enough that I think there's enough to bet on when you're drafting this late in the draft. Rounding out this tier here, we got Jonathan Mingo. He's another guy that's been a really late riser in the draft process. NFL GMs, you just hear them talking about they love how physical his game is, especially in a year where there's not a lot of big-bodied physical receivers. Biggest knock on him, he doesn't really have that quick twitch explosive speed, but he does know how to use his big 220-pound frame to box out defenders, go up, make catches, can provide a big target for quarterbacks. Weirdly, he didn't really haul in a lot of touchdowns in his career. He only had 12 for his whole career. But I still feel like his best use at the next level is in a system where coaches can be able to highlight the things he does do well. Utilize him on those quick slants, outs, jump balls right around the end zone. Nice deeper flex play here. There is a lower floor here. He didn't really have a lot of hype until lately. It's one of those where you wonder if there was more physical receivers in this class, if he would be as high as he is right now. Next group here is our 12-team kind of like deep bench or taxi squad stashes. We got 5 total guys in this group. Worth a look in the 12-team leagues where you got those deep benches or a bunch of taxi squads. Most of these guys, I'm going to assume, get drafted day 3 in the NFL draft. You'd have to be patient, really patient, but in the right system, they're guys that can maybe in their 3rd year develop into rotational flex plays. If I'm taking a deep dart throw on one of these guys, I'm going to go with Andrei Iosivas. Definitely my favorite target here in this group. He's going late 4th or completely undrafted in rookie drafts right now. That could change after the draft. Very skilled route runner. And I still believe there's another level he could get to, and there's a couple reasons why. He ran track in college as well. So it just tells you, for one, what kind of athlete he is. But now that he can lock in and specialize on just playing football, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him take big strides next few years. 6'3", had a 39-inch vertical and a 4.43 40. So elite athleticism there. And like I said, now that he can lock in and specialize, I'm excited to see what he does, assuming he doesn't fall, 6th, 7th round. If he can get 4th, 5th round capital, then I'm going to be very, very excited about him. If you liked what you heard here, like I said, go become an all-access member over at Fantasy Six Pack. I have my full wide receiver rookie rankings there, and it goes down to 37. So we talked about, I believe, 16, 17 guys a day. You go there, you can get written analysis on 20 more guys that I have there. If you enjoyed the content this week, reach out to me on Twitter. I'd love to have some ideas for other content you guys would like to hear now that these rookie previews are rounded up. Of course, we'll have some post-draft stuff coming for you next week. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next week.